All right, welcome into the Knoll Road Steelers fans. A massive Week 9 matchup. Steelers hosting the Colts. We have all the important talking points, keys to victory, matchups, plus how are the Roonies looking at the coaching staff as frustration from fans and media is back to all-time highs? How's ownership doing? And what is the latest Pittsburgh Steelers trade buzz? It's the Sunday show, and here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yes, sir. Welcome into the show. Thank you so much for hitting view on this bad boy. We'll talk a lot about the game. We'll get to the trade buzz and what ownership's thinking about Mike Tomlin here in just a couple of minutes. But I'm Gavin Dawson along with New Bear Lesniewski here as we go into Week 9 on CBS, 1 o'clock kickoff at Acrisure. A couple of different ways of looking at this game, New Bear. I think maybe the majority are thinking Steelers are not good. They're about to get wrecked by this Colts offense, which is, pretty daunting. The other is, the Steelers needed a wake-up call. They got it losing 2 weeks in a row, and they're about to have a big upset here to put them back in the mix in the AFC. Where are you coming out on this game, bro?
Peppers is out. Is that right? We're not after all this turnover with the safety room. Peppers is out. Is that confirmed? So I was really excited to see the new safety room, and I know Elliott's out for the year now, and the Duggar move, how much is he going to play? Are they going to, finally roll out big nickel, maybe with a little bit of speed, and everyone bitch, moan, and complain about how old and how slow, and they get a little bit younger and hopefully a little bit faster, which can translate to a little bit better. And then it's like, damn, they can't catch a break, right? Like week to week, there's always something with this defense. And you're right. The tenor, the tone here locally is that they're going to come in and put a 40 burger up. The tenor, the tone is that this is going to be like, what's it going to take? How many more of these? We were just talking a couple weeks ago. You get to 5-1 while the Ravens are 1-5. You own the North home playoff game. The road to the AFC championship potentially goes through Pittsburgh, SBLX through Pittsburgh. And now we're sitting here going, is this team even going to make the playoffs? Like crash landing nuclear stuff.
Yeah, like the video. If you think the Steelers still going to make the playoffs, leave a comment down below. If you don't think they will, Chuck Clark is out. Cole Holcomb is out due to illness. Jabril Peppers, you mentioned that with the quad. Now I think your available safeties are Thornhill, Duggar, Derek Forrest coming off a practice squad,
right,
and Jack Henderson. It's tough. I think safety is one of those spots, and maybe the only spot on defense other than like one technique defensive tackle where you can just do your job and nobody notices it, but it's the nuances and the subtleties of being in position, of being ready to step up and help make a gang tackle, right? It's a collection of little things and positional greatness, I think, that people take for granted with your starting safeties on the field. And once you flip into new guys or depth guys, it can be complete bleeping Thunderdome back there with blown coverages and easy 6-point scores.
Yeah, well, I mean, now the question emerges, how much does Ramsey get thrown back there? If they're going to stay in 1 and 3 and be stubborn, instead of seeing him in the nickel blitz and off the slot, do we see him play in center field? Or, what does this look like if they are able to get big nickel? They played a snap of dime, and now you start talking about what does this coverage look like with 6 and 7 DBs, and I don't think this is going to be the week we get that answer. As you go through unpacking this defense, remember November, we used to talk about, we changed the schedule back when I was in college to make it damn near impossible at the end of the year, and that was the thing. And that was the first time I heard that. And even before V for Vendetta or my wedding or any of that, remember the 4th or the 5th of November. And now we're here and it's the 1st of November. And my second in line, it's her birthday month. So she loves Halloween because it's both mommy's favorite holiday. And then it turns into her birthday week, her birthday month. I love November. This becomes my favorite part of the year where it's cold before you get snow. It really feels like football. It's the AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers weather. And they're weathering a storm right now.
They are, and it's not good. And I feel like the Colts aren't a real contender, but they are very good. And as far as being a regular season team, they're built to pave and get 12, 13, maybe even 14 wins. So I'm going to pick the Colts to win this game 38-24. I don't know how good you think they are. They are 7-1. They've won 4 in a row. They have a plus 116 point differential. When I look at their defense, I don't think this is a great defense, but with them scoring as much as they've had, they put their defense in very good positions to succeed. And so far, they have not let them down. The Colts have scored 30 plus, though, in 4 games in a row, 6 of their 8. They have scored 29 plus in 7 of 8. So when they're bad, they're not even that bad. They're plus 8 in turnovers. They're taking care of the ball so incredibly well, and they've only turned it over 4 times now. They have the third takeaways in the league. Like I think there's some unsustainable stuff going on with the defense, but I like the Packers offense. I think it's probably around top 10, but I don't think it's good enough to really exploit Indianapolis, assuming the Colts are going to come out here and score a bunch.
Yeah, the one caveat to all the numbers you just unleashed is they haven't really played anybody, right? I mean, the Chargers game was a really nice litmus test. The Rams got them, right? They played the Rams bodied them. And I don't mean, like, a lot of times, you look at these final scores, almost every game in the NFL is a 1-score game unless, another team really shuts it down or they're really bad. When you start talking about the teams that are close, middle of the pack, and at this point in the season, there's still very little separation at the tippy top, right? And then here are the Colts at 7-1. Okay, well, they beat the Dolphins. They got the Broncos by 1. That was at home in the Dome, right? They've gotten the Titans twice. Titans not good. They got Raiders big. Raiders not good, right? So, there's some, 4 or 5 of these wins, you start unpacking it, but then you go, all right, well, we think the Broncos are a pretty good team. We think the Rams are a pretty good team. We think the Chargers are a pretty good team. So
they should not have beaten the Broncos. That game ended weird.
It certainly did. And the Cardinals won. Some of this stuff, you go like 7-1. What's real, right? How do you devalue a team that probably wins 12, 13, 14 games? And that's some of the numbers inside the numbers, the math inside the math. What everyone's waiting for, though, is Danny Jones to turn back into a pumpkin. What everybody's waiting for is, all this, everyone blaming Dable, everyone blaming the Giants, everyone blaming, go back through Hard Knocks and the Saquon Barkley with it. They paid Danny dimes, and it cost them Saquon Barkley on the way to the Eagles Super Bowl, right? That's the narrative. Daniel Jones was not good in New York. You can blame it on whoever you want to blame it on. He had flashes, right? He got him to the playoffs, and you pay the guy because he's a playoff guy, and it's New York. It's hard to handle that stuff. People forget and kind of really gloss over when they talk about how he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he should be based on beating Brady twice. Eli Manning was a 500 quarterback, literally on the nose. Like, New York is hard, and they haven't been good, either one of those teams, for a long time. And breath of fresh air in a place like Indianapolis, where the spotlight is so different, right? It's such a different place. It's a different deal. They take care of their own. They protect their own. They're going to give you, every chance to prove them right. And, oh, by the way, their owner with the headset and that stuff that's been going around with her jumping in and, dishing about knowing who's on their P's and Q's and making sure that if a receiver misses a ball or a quarterback misses a throw, she knows, so everyone knows who made the right call or who ran the wrong route. Love what's going on in the horseshoe land. And what's really going to be interesting this week is TJ Watt, Herbig, Highsmith, Cam, Harmon up front against the offensive line that has been so dominant, where Jonathan Taylor right now is better than Saquon Barkley last year. People talking about him as the non-quarterback MVP of the league.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to do that, but I think you nailed all the points. Like, you add to that maybe the best rookie tight end the league has seen in a long time. It's a perfect environment right now for Daniel Jones, and it starts with that great protection, a simplified approach for him. They run the most play action in the NFL. I think it's 40% of his dropbacks are play action, along with that running game. And they have a lot of great stuff going. But I think we're both kind of along the same vibe of we still don't believe they're that elite. Maybe it feels more like a 5-3 team, like a 7-1 team to me. But here's what I was getting at with how their offense has shielded their defense from looking bad. And I think the opportunity is running the ball, like just Warren, Gainwell, maybe even some more Caleb Johnson this week, trying to push 30 or 35 carries, even if it's only like 4 a pop. The Colts opponents are only running the ball 34% of the time. That's the second fewest in the league. They're allowing 1.7 yards before contact per running back rush attempt. That's from Matt Stats. Salute to Matt Williamson. Only 5 defenses are worse than that. So they are weak. And I have a ton of respect for DeForest Buckner, 10-year veteran at defensive tackle, like one of the best interior defensive linemen of the era. But I think if they come up against a good running game, and I think we can say now that about the Steelers, and it's their day and their offensive line is firing, and maybe we're due for that. Maybe it's a man up type of game for this offensive line. They come out there. I think they can match up fine against everybody else on that defensive line. I have Frazier against Buckner. I don't feel horrible about that.
Yeah, the chatter, and I think one of the proof points of this game, up front, and I don't think we need to get too into the weeds on it. I mean, it's a bunch of big nasty dudes against a bunch of other big nasty dudes. They're way more athletic than you think on their side. And Father Time being undefeated has everyone questioning what's left for the guys in black and gold. So that up front, mano y mano, right? From there, where it gets really interesting for me is Lou Anarumo, the mad scientist. People talking about him drawing things up and them coming through, and this Indianapolis Colts team playing better, harder, cleaner football than the Bengals did. And let's be honest, he was made to be the scapegoat. He cost Joe Burrow an MVP. He cost the Bengals a playoff run. Anarumo, I mean, they did it about as decently as you can, firing somebody, but he, essentially got run out of town. And the numbers don't lie, right? The same way that the Colts are 7-1 and you are what your record says you are, whatever we say or whatever we think, whatever our gut or our intuition, believes they're going to go or trend or be ultimately at the end of this season and in the mix when the playoffs come calling. This defense, to your point, some of the numbers, how much of that is attributed to the offense getting out and running away from folks? How much of that is attributed to not playing good teams? How much is this team playing like a modified modern version of Peyton Manning, Harrison, Reggie Wayne, getting out in front, letting Freeney and Mathis hunt, and Bob Sanders come crashing in and muck things up? This team does it a little bit differently because the receiver room is surely not that dominant, doesn't have one guy, let alone 2. They have some really good guys, and Pittman is really coming on. I was high on Pittman coming out. I've been high on Pittman the whole time. He's had a real hard time staying healthy. They've had a lot of transition in that quarterback room. But when he's available and he's really right, I mean, he brings everything that you want to the table in terms of like that ranginess and that ability to do things at all 3 levels and really cause problems. And then they got a bunch of dudes who play off him. You already mentioned Warren. I already mentioned Taylor. So offensive, defensive line, meaning Colts, O-line, versus Steelers D-line. And then what does this schematic look like against Aaron Rodgers? The Steelers have had a ton of success. There's a lot of points scored, a lot of wins against Lou Anarumo in Cincinnati, regardless of who was playing quarterback. But ain't none of those dudes Aaron Rodgers level. So when you start talking about 8, how great can he be this week, especially in a 1 o'clock window where everyone from the Rooneys down through the players to this city much, much, much prefers not having to wait all day for Sunday night.
Yeah, I love that, man. Let's get this thing going, especially after 2 losses in a row. You mentioned some of those key matchups. I just look at it as a macro perspective, like you got to slow down their run and you got to run it. Like run the ball, stop the run, kind of end of matchup discussion for me. You asked, is this a playoff team anymore? I think you have to go win this game, and if you don't, it kind of sucks that you get Green Bay and the Colts in back-to-back weeks, and if you don't win this game, you're going to be on a 3-game losing streak. But just the historical odds drop well below 50% if you lose this game. You're looking at 31.9% all time of teams that start the year 4-4. And then you would add to that some of your fundamental issues you have on defense and the fact that you'd be on a 3-game losing streak. It'd be really hard to call, especially because the second half of the schedule is tougher than the first half for Pittsburgh. It'd be really tough to call it.
Oh my goodness. That was the big thing, was you need to get to 5-1 because of everything to come. Like,
yeah,
the back half of this schedule is absolutely, I mean, murderer's row of draws, right? When you start looking at, okay, yeah, it stinks getting the Packers and Colts back to back. You want to go out to LA and struggle on a Sunday night game against Harbaugh and Herbert. Flacco already got you. Now he's going to come here. Are you going to be in your fears? Then, this up and down Bears team from week to week, who knows, right? I mean, you could beat the brakes off of them, or they could be throwing Tecmo Bowl flea flickers over your head, right? Then you get Josh Allen. You still got Jared Goff and the Lions out there. But the thing that we're not talking enough about is the Ravens twice, now that Lamar just happened to slot back in and throw 4 tutties and look just fine.
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned living in your fears. We should absolutely talk about things we want to see more of, and it's got to involve going for it instead of kicking field goals and punts. Like, I don't know how you can have such a good offense and such a bad defense and think it's a good idea to kick it away. And eight games into the season, I don't have any more optimism. I'm done with like hopium, right? I can't think
copium or hopium.
I'm going to need some copium after this one, I think, but I don't have any reason to believe that this Steelers defense is going to now turn it on. We could do that after September and coming back from Dublin and in the Cleveland game, you're like, all right, the defense is starting to figure it out. But after these last couple of weeks, I feel like their identity is their identity. And if they don't get takeaways, they are going to get driven.
Yeah, so the drive, like you just said, in terms of, want to, have to, need to, got to, and, I was watching the game back again because I was trying to, I always talk about the world I want to live in, right? I want to live in a world where TJ Watt's wrecking game. I want to live in a world where I'm excited about it. I'm going to give Tomlin the benefit of the doubt. Who is it hard right now? And then you go back and you watch, right before Juan Thornhill became a meme and Jordan Love went full Mahomes mode and entered the Matrix, TJ Watt was screaming down the line and had to run stuff, right? And you go, my wife is so annoyed with me because I'm just like, she's like, how many times are you going to show me this, buddy? Because I'll be like, she's like, why are you torturing yourself? And I'm like, because I want to see if I'm full of shit. Like if my heart is just broken and it's trying to lie to my head, or if I'm seeing enough tape out there, I'm seeing enough plays out there where you go, no. We were right to pay the man. We shouldn't have tried to trade him for picks and nuke. It's like, because it's not just him, right? And I always talk about, like, if you ISO him and you look at the next gen stats and this, it's like there's so much that goes into 11 pieces on one side of the chessboard and 22 on the field. Where, man, if they're not front side loading up and they're not putting you in a position where you have to cut back to get smoked, then he's, Superman, no matter how clean, how taut, and how like ready to rock that cape is, if it's just him out there. Look at Myles Garrett going for 5 sacks and a loss and then going to the podium looking like someone stole his puppy. Like, I just so very badly want to see this team come together. Not any one person, but this collection of dudes say enough is enough. You come across the middle, we might get fined, we might get flagged, but you're losing a tooth. You line up and you try to body us, Quentin Nelson and company, we got news for you, JT. Like, I want to stop having conversations because there's more film with 299 yards and stiff arms into the turf ending your season, and announcers talking about questioning the heart, the fight, the grit. What is the Steelers team anymore if not those things? This is one of those, win or lose, this is one of those games where everybody better have the mouthpiece in, maybe 2 of them dangling. I don't want to see pink and yellow hanging out of your face mask. I want to see teeth coming out of other people's grill.
Yeah, they needed to get back to that. They've been a top 10 defense for a number of years. So I think you just kind of assume that that's going to continue. And it's crazy that it hasn't. But I can't disbelieve anymore what my eyes are telling me. You mentioned their identity for a long time. They've been a takeaway team. They now have not had a takeaway since the third quarter of week 4. So that's like half of the season that they've played so far, bro.
The reason you can't talk about his record off a bye against the league's record, or his record, and you can't talk about all the non-losing seasons and all the positive things without giving him credit where credit is due. And as much as this, he's punting on third down is the joke, but he's kicking field goals instead of going for it on fourth because the defense was good enough. They were good enough to bail you out. They were good enough despite the quarterback play, despite the revolving door and no post Big Ben plan. Kenny Pickett.
But don't you agree with me now that it's time to stop basing your decision making off what happened the previous 3 years?
So what I'm saying is when I hear him come to the podium twice, post game and Tuesdays with Tomlin, and the first thing he blames is the offense. The first thing he talks about is having to score more points or not getting threes when we should be getting like the first thing he says about Terrell Austin is what? I've known him for a long time. Like nothing about this is going to be week to week with the man in charge and the guys calling the plays. So they have this history, right? They have this history of success. That's where their arrogance comes from. They say, okay, you are what our scoreboard, banners, now obviously not rings, but when you go to the Wikipedia page, when you go to footballreference.com, look at all the things Mike Greenberg says about me week over week, year over year. The problem is, to your point, and what I think you were just about to start talking about, is the evolution has to come because times have changed.
Absolutely. Teams are getting really tuned to this idea that we have to make you think, we have to provide maximum deception, and we have to keep you guessing and then second guessing what you believe to be true coming into this game. And because of that, you're not doing it, number one, so you're not harvesting that advantage. But the entire league is getting sharper and sharper as every year goes on. The coaches and the players are getting better at teaching it and being in the moment and throwing a subtle body fake that might tell a quarterback a false cue. All of this stuff is building upon itself year in and year out. 10 years ago, when McVay really introduced it on a major level and took the league by storm, nobody was ready for it. And the numbers they put up were insane. And every year since then, another team or two has joined the fight. Now there's this collection of intellectual property, and the Steelers continue to do things the old ways. That's why I cringe when I see in our comments, go hire Mike McCarthy. No, the bleep, no, you don't want Mike McCarthy. You don't want anybody with a resume based off, this is what I do and I've had success in the past doing this. You want the resume to be, we are laser tuned to the trends of the NFL and we are playing back. We are innovating and trying to come up with a triple orbit, motion in the backfield. So when they get ready for the 1, here's the 2. And then when you're ready for the 2, here's the 3. There is no limit to it. It's open infinitely. The Steelers are one of the teams really from the 90s, but to a lesser extent from about 2000 to 2015. That was the last era of line up and do what you do. And if you're playing like that now, you better have drafted so much better because you have to go out and win every matchup to put a player in space. You have one breakdown like that, and all of a sudden, when the scheme can throw everybody to one side of the field and the ball pops out the other one, that is a complete way of creating advantages without having the personnel. I'll come back to the Cowboys. Bottom third offensive line. How are they getting Javonte Williams, who many thought was a washed-up running back, free on so many looks that he's, scoring as one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL? That's all scheme, right? And maybe some offensive linemen that are athletic and are capable of getting in space or capable of pulling, but not all of them. And they're definitely not good. And there's ways that you can beat them. But how do you help your players mitigate that through scheme? So, all that to say, for me, the most damning stat from that last game was this deal where Jordan Love leads the league in throwing against the blitz. And you not only blitzed him the most, you blitzed him more than you'd blitzed any other freaking quarterback all year.
Well, and you're doing it from the same look. That's the big problem, is like the percentages, to your point about data and fourth downs and everything in between, when the sticks and the possessions start and it ends.
Yes. You can't have easy tells like that. That's 101.
Yes.
That's 101.
So like there's basically two schools of thought, right? We run a handful of plays and everything is window dressing. It's a million formations and motions, but it's really these core concepts. And then there's what you're talking about with the Cowboys. They could literally run anything in the running playbook. They can go pin and pull, and they can go duo, and they can and gap, and my guys are better than you. They can go inside, outside zone because we have the ability to be multiple. They have everything at their disposal. The problem is, and this is what Mike Tomlin is not saying, and also not doing. He doesn't want to come into a week and say, "Oh, okay, we're going to run 1-3-5-7. We're also going to have 2-4-6 built. We're going to have all this different stuff." No, we are who we are. We do what we do. And here's some of the tweaks or some of the cheats or some of the games we're going to play off that. The problem is when they do get creative, it is these almost asinine elements like Deshaun Elliott blitzing from 10 yards deep as the ball's being snapped. Like, no chance in hell of getting there. If the roll from the third level into the second level into the first is something to the effect of you're changing, right? You're swapping, right? Where someone who's deep comes up, someone who's up goes deep, or inside out, horizontal, vertical stretch. We talk about that all the time. And you're doing that stuff post snap. And your basically only answer is to send a safety from 10 plus yards deep with no chance. It's not even interesting. I'm not even interested in having that conversation. If this week, if you did something like that to put that on tape, because this week when you show that dude is actually going to switch onto Warren and you get a pick six off of it because they had to study this tape and they see this thing and they think they're going to get that. And then when you do it, no, here's the switch and it's a pick six, but we don't get that anymore. Because it's not Minka with his instincts stepping in front of the play. It's not any one of your favorite linebackers earholing some dude, so they're afraid, right? There's no X factor splash play guy, and there's no I'm going to take your lunch money guy like Debo, where everyone is coming into these games saying, we're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know what they do. Here's how we're going to attack it. And then they do.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. This team is soft or has bad decision making up the middle of the field. But that being said, I love it when you get into X and O's, man. That was a perfect breakdown. Okay, so that being said, how is the Rooney family looking at this stuff? If you saw that fan chat with Jerry Dulac, I'm usually tracking his stuff on Steelers Twitter. He said the right word to describe how Art Rooney is looking at the coaching staff right now. He says it would be frustrated or impatient. And I love this. You know, we're playing the point in game. Who's at fault? Is it Austin? Is it Tomlin? And everybody's got their own idea of, you know, exactly who is more to blame. But as we said in the show that we did earlier in the week, New Bear, we kind of need Tomlin to take over just to see if he can, you know, if he can do something that Austin isn't. But I'm optimistic because, and I hate to say anything bad about a guy that's won a Super Bowl for you and he's been around for so long, but you know, I would say it's mission accomplished here, right? We hired this guy. He continues the lineage and the legacy of Steelers coaches stay a damn long time. A decade and a half is way longer than anybody else in this era is ever going to do again.
It's almost 2 decades, though. That's the thing. It's not 15. It's 19. It's 20.
Okay, we're at 19 years already?
Yeah.
God dang, time's flying. Okay, so you've done it. You've done it. 2 decades, 20 years. That's how I'd look at it if I'm the Rooneys. Like, we're not moving on. We're not violating who we are. We're not breaking our history and tradition. We've done it, right? And now it's time for a new head coach. So I like it when I hear that Rooney is frustrated or impatient because of 2 things. Number one, you could fire Tomlin, but more than that, you could just take advantage of what Tomlin does well. He's a tone setter. He's a great orator. I mean, he's going to get up there and be the guy that you just dream about as far as being a leader of men, right? And
in a place like Carolina where they need that, in a place like Tennessee where Cam Ward needs that, in a place like not here when you have Aaron Rodgers and company and you're the second oldest team in the league and it's Super Bowl or bust. He's not the guy for that job.
Well, I think he could be, but I think what I would want to see is just insist that he gets different coordinators. You know, if Rooney does a deep dive and picks up the phone and calls his fellow owners and executives around the NFL, enough of them are going to tell him your coordinators are boring and unimaginative. If you want to keep Mike Tomlin, you got to maybe strip some of his play design, play calling responsibilities, have him be a walk-around head coach that checks in on guys, gives them a thumbs up, smacks their ass, goes and does another hell of a press conference. Let other people design your defensive and offensive schemes, because it looks to me like it's passed Tomlin by.
When you don't have a coaching tree, when you've been a head coach for 2 decades and there isn't a sapling, when there's nothing out there, but nobody is calling the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to hire their coaches. Nobody wants Terrell Austin. Nobody wanted Terrell Austin. He had just been fired for being terrible twice. And Mike Tomlin's like, no, he can be my guy. Matt Canada being an offensive coordinator to the NFL.
Brutal. Yeah.
Like,
we can't put him in charge. I'm saying this would be a compromise if they really want to keep Tomlin for whatever reason. This would be the only scenario in which that I think it'd be a good idea.
So I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is then what? These guys already aren't listening to him. The message is stale. The Tomlinisms, cliches and all those things are fun and funny and they're true and there's truth to them. But when that's all you have, this is the problem with that. Everyone talks about how he's a great orator. Not anymore. Now it's no longer confidence, it's arrogance. He's telling you that the numbers say I'm not doing a good enough job. The numbers say do this, I'm doing that because I know better than you. He's coming and talking about the offensive and a defensive component. And as we go through, we're not going to live in our fears. And it's just soundbite and clip after clip and things of that nature. Okay. Like it's just him talking over, around, down to all of us, not just the Brooke Pryors of the world who are there at the podium, but me and you and everyone at Acrisure every weekend and everyone throwing shit at their TVs every weekend because it's the same damn thing over and over again. He is literally the definition of insanity.
And I can't disagree with that. I do think a lot of teams deal with this. A lot of frustrated fan bases of losing teams deal with this because of the must-lie situations that coaches, executives, quarterbacks are put in. Like, you can't throw anybody under the bus. You can't show a lack of confidence in your guys. You can't talk bad about the front office because ultimately they're in charge of you having a job as a head coach or as a player. Like, it's a really sensitive minefield to walk. And on top of that, the American media is so much tougher on sports honesty than anywhere in the world. Like, you really can't give your honest thoughts, Like, I think the honest thoughts maybe from Tomlin would be, we didn't coach a good game, but we might be getting old, and our linebackers are soft. We believed in them too much. We can't find the right damn safeties. I mean, we might be faking an illness here on Chuck Clark just to take him off the field. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard. You can't. You will create so much drama because the media will kick into overdrive if you show any kind of weakness or that you're throwing a guy under the bus. It'll lead SportsCenter.
So where I lived in Kentucky, when they hired Coach Cal, I saw his plane come in, not to Lexington Airport, but to the billionaire across the way's front yard, because this guy had more money than God, and he basically just built a subdivision for himself and named all the streets after members of his family, and it was like in a trust. It could never be divided. Cow pastures and all this fun stuff. And I see this private jet come in, and it's like, oh my God, that's Cal Party. Like, it's happening, right? You fast forward from a national title and all the Final Four runs and all the draft picks and all the money and all the buzz and Kentucky basketball being the greatest tradition, 2K wins and all the things. And then all of a sudden, he's not good enough anymore because they're getting beat by St. Mary's. They're getting run in the first round. They're not making it to the second weekend. When they do, they find a way to lose. When they're undefeated, they blow. They blow it. They choke. And it's time. And I don't want to hear that. And I'm arguing with all my guys. And, look at everything he's done for us. Look at how he changed college basketball. Coach K had to start doing one and dones. Why am I talking about college basketball and John Calipari right now? Because I wanted to be a stan. I wanted to say, give him one more season, give him one more shot. But the message was stale and the game had changed, and he was no longer the right guy in the right place at the right time for the University of Kentucky. When he goes to Arkansas, the big question living in your fears that everyone had was who's the guy who's going to replace him? And then Kentucky starts making overtures, offering these crazy dollar amounts to Dan Hurley and all NBA guys, like all these rumors, all this money, and everyone says no. Nobody wants the Lexington Fishbowl. Hurley, in his case, wanted to chase the three-peat, et cetera, et al. Who walks through that door? A guy without an NCAA tournament win, a guy who BYU 22 wins, a guy who was the captain of the national championship team with Rick Pitino, the right guy for the job, who wants to shoot 43s a game, who doesn't care about the NBA draft the same way, wants guys to go, but wants guys who want the name on the front of the jersey more than the name on the back. And I think that is the problem, right? It used to mean something to wear gold and black. It used to mean something to strap in the North and dominate physically and will take the air out of the other team. Everyone's so afraid of, if it's not Tomlin, then who's it's going to be? Some whiz kid, some retread, surely not Mike McCarthy, like you said. What if we don't even know who the answer is because we don't have that opportunity to go through the process?
Yeah, you got to give yourself a chance to go find something better. And I don't think it'd be that hard at all to at least find somebody with a better chance. Just snag a guy off a good coaching tree. At least he's going to bless you with the knowledge of what the process is of preparing a scheme and a game plan. Okay, we are running late, but hell, it's the Sunday show, so why not? The latest trade buzz, Diana Rossini is saying the Raiders want a 3 for Jakobi Meyers, says the Bills and Steelers have been calling. To me, you have enough on offense. If you don't think he's worth a 3, I have no problem hanging on to your 3. I have.
You know who was a 3? You know who you spent a 3? Roman Wilson season.
Hey, Roman Wilson could be good. Calvin Austin's coming back. You got your tight ends humming. Offense is not the problem. The resources should be spent on defense, but Myers is definitely worth a 3.
Yeah, the rumor was 4. They're trying to press this right up against the 4th. And yes and no. Is he a professional wide receiver? Is he more of a true proven 2? But what I'm saying is, like, if this team, like you just said, if offense isn't the problem and the resources should be spent on defense, what if the resource that you have in Roman Wilson has the ability, because Calvin Austin either has to get paid or you got to replace him. Let's say he does pop off. Are you going to pay that man, or are you going to find out if Roman Wilson can slot in and run with DK?
Rather pay Jakobi Meyers.
You'd rather pay him $25, $28 million a year than have Roman Wilson on his rookie contract?
I think I'd like Roman Wilson as my 3rd guy. I'm going to let Calvin Austin walk.
Okay. All right. So you're giving up a 3 and you're writing a check for Jakobi Meyers. Now we're back into the carousel game where I want to know who else can we get for a 3? Who else can we pay $28 million to? Because now I'm just going, well, how much is Waddle making? How much is he going to cost? You know what I mean? Like the escalator, when it was a 4th or lower or a 4 and a late round pick swap, every inch that you push forward. Okay, so if we're going to move up to a 3, well, what can we do for a 2? If we're going to write a check for 28, what can we do for 32? Like, if you just push a little bit further, I think the difference from Jakobi Meyers to that next tier isn't worth what Roman Wilson could be versus what you could do if you actually said, this is how we're going to fix this thing.
I like fixing it with Jeffrey Simmons. I like fixing it with Quinnen Williams.
Ooh.
I like fixing it. How about this one for Crazy Pills? You can have Herbig and a 3 for Maxx Crosby, Las Vegas Raiders. Now
hurt me, dude.
Now
Jerry Jones.
No, it's Crosby and Watt. Forget the name Herbig ever existed in Pittsburgh lore. We got Crosby and Watt here. Now you don't got to worry about TJ Watt not wanting to move.
I'll tell you what you wouldn't have a problem with for 1 second anymore is the effort, the pomp and circumstance of let's get right on Sunday and let's come out with our hair on fire. And oh my goodness, what TJ would have to get a tattoo.
Of what? Oh, to match?
To match Max,
tattoo, bro.
Yeah. we'd have we'd have all kinds of crazy shit to talk about.
Okay, we got a lot of crazy stuff to talk about, including the Steelers and Colts Sunday at noon on CBS. The trade deadline.
No, it's noon for you.
Yeah,
it's
noon.
1
o'clock.
It's 1 p.m. for the people on the East Coast, dude.
I'm sorry. I am sorry about that. And I'm sorry about not knowing that Coach T's been here for 19 years. What the hell? It's mission accomplished. Congratulations, Coach Tomlin. 2 decades.
When you said that, I was saying, okay, so you're in Texas, right? And you've been there for a long time. When you say mission accomplished, are you talking about it like George Bush said it? Or are you talking about it like for real? Like we've done a good enough job or we're kind of because
that's how you sell it. That's how you sell it. This isn't a bad thing. Are you kidding me? We are celebrating the iconic Steelers legacy of keeping head coaches forever, and Tomlin's just our latest example. So it's time to send him off into retirement. It's early retirement. He did such a good job, because they don't want. I think part of it is they love having the guy for a long time.
Well, you know what they're afraid of? They're afraid that he's going to go somewhere else and do what Andy Reid has done. And I'm just like, can we not just lie about everything?
My goodness. I love that. I absolutely love, man, this guy, he is so amazing. He hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years, but we're worried what he's going to go do.
Right.
Like he's one of the greats, man.
If he were to leave, right? If he were to either leave of his own free will or be canned, and he went to Tennessee and he went to Carolina, or he went to one of these places with a young developing quarterback who needs that, orator, as you always call him, they wouldn't let him just bring Terrell Austin and Matt Canada.
No.
And that would not happen anywhere else.
No,
it's allowed to happen here.
The comp is actually what's crazy about this comp is it's kind of like Belichick, where after a while in New England, he had been there and amassed so much power that he was doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
Having defensive coordinators call off
Patricia.
Oh man. It
was a very, very good DC. He just had no business doing it the other way. Not just because.
Yeah. And now you take away the momentum and the authority and the history and the momentum that he built in New England, take Tom Brady away. They're not even a playoff team. And now in North Carolina.
So Kraft chose Belichick. We know that's the truth, right? As much as it hurt him and as he regrets it or any of the other, words that he's put to describing it, he picked Bill because he believed that the runway was longer. I mean, dude, what Brady did had never been done before. I mean, Joe Montana, it was his boyhood idol, and Joe Montana was, go back through all the different connection points and connective tissue. When he went to Kansas City, I'm still pissed that my mom wouldn't buy me a Joe Montana Chiefs jersey when we saw a Raiders game down there. And oh my God, the barbecue. Oh my God, the tailgate at that experience. Anyways, the Montana was in his late 30s, and people were talking about him being broken and his elbow and his back and all the different things. And Brady just played, I don't know, a decade past that, went in no one had done that before. What Aaron Rodgers is doing right now just it's not normal. And especially because Brady's injury came in 2008, right? Rodgers' injury just was 2 years ago. And imagine playing this thing forward if Rodgers decides that he wants to play for a couple more years. The only way that happens is if there is a plan in place that he can see and agree with, especially if these rumors aren't just these gatherings about not players only meetings, not closed door, but small group gatherings with key veterans. If there's anything more going on there than just these guys grabbing a beer or a burger, and he's actually starting to build his new posse and build his new clique because he wants to play here as long as he plays. And this isn't to take my ball and go to the ayahuasca farm as soon as, they get sent to Cancun. Like, there's a world that you live in where if you are recruiting Aaron Rodgers to come back for 2026, it starts with the decisions you make from the top down, with the man in charge of this roster, the players inside of this roster that he's trying to level up, like Roman Wilson since camp, when they were comparing him to Jerry frickin' Rice and all these other guys that, he was ready to have his breakout. They have to get the answers to these questions, or they just linger and to continue to keep you from getting where you want to go 26, 27 and beyond. This can't just be about the draft is here next year. If you bungle the draft next year, you're doing that in front of the entire country watching you. This isn't just arguing with Mike Greenberg and ESPN about what Mike Tomlin is or isn't. This is the whole league laughing at you, 500,000 people in a weekend.
Well, man, you brought up a lot in there, and I just had this blinking light in my head for a topic. If it guaranteed you got to keep Rodgers, would you hold on to Tomlin for one more year? And I think I would have to answer with the affirmative on that. It would be worth it. And by the way, I'd be terrified of who Aaron Rodgers would try to insist on you hiring as a head coach. So that would be part of the evaluation. It's not just Mike Tomlin. It's Aaron Rodgers would probably try to be heavy-handed and end up with a guy that actually couldn't help you that much if you didn't get involved.
I mean, this is why everyone's talking about Art living in his fears, because it's on him. Like he Art the second, right? This is he's never done this before, right? This has always been big brother and dad. And this is the first time that like it's going to be on him to pick the coach. And
yeah,
the other
can get crazy.
They didn't miss. And now what you just thought, dude, I can't believe what a great thought. What a great through line to my rabbit hole nonsense. Like,
well, hey, let's pick this conversation up maybe a little bit later on in the week. Trade deadline on Tuesday, Steelers Colts Sunday at 1 on CBS at Acrisure. We got to run. Thanks to everybody for subscribing, by the way. We did hit our goal. You guys are freaking awesome. If you want to help a little bit more, hit that like button on your way out. Until next time, we'll see you here on the Knoll Road.